Imagine debuting with Mithali Raj, scoring 100 with Mithali Raj, and never playing for India ever again. This is a story of a player who did everything right when given a chance, but disappeared once and for all. We need to go all the way back to 26 June 1999 when India took on Ireland at Campbell Milton Keynes. India's 11 included 4 debutants: Mithali Raj, Hemalata Kala, Rupanjali Shastri, and a name that's forgotten, Reshma Gandhi. The Indians were set out to bat first, with Mithali Raj and Reshma Gandhi opening the batting. And then the impossible happened. By the end of the 50 over mark, India were 258 for no loss. 258 was 0, losing no wicket by the end of the 50 over mark. Mithali Raj was 114 of 138 and Reshma Gandhi 104 of 164. Both batters walking off the field being not out. The partnership of 258 not out was the highest at that time for any wicket for an Indian pair. It was also the world record for the first wicket partnership at the time. And it also remains one of the most bizarre combination of debutants because it was the first time 2 debutants for the Indian team were scoring hundreds. Not just that, they also did it together. You know what's funny about this? They didn't think much of it at all. Walking off the field, of course, they were happy. They were representing the Indian team for the first time. They both scored hundreds. And they also broke a lot of world records, but they didn't really make much of it because until the match got over, which India of course won, they didn't even know it was an official one-day international. Imagine that. The fact that 2 debutants walk onto the field, score hundreds, walk off the field, India win the match, and they don't even think it's a big deal because they don't even know if it's real. And then they did know it's real. Reshma Gandhi from there plays one more match for the Indian team, stays not out, and is never seen again wearing the blue colours. What really happened to her? Reshma Gandhi's story starts even before Mithali Raj. She was on India's radar even before Mithali Raj made it to the Indian team because Reshma Gandhi was a wicketkeeper batter who was part of the reserves in the 1997 World Cup. Remember, she made her debut in 1999, but 2 years prior to that, she was still and around the Indian team being the reserve wicketkeeper batter. Very interestingly though, she hadn't played a lot of games before even being the reserve for the Indian team because before the 1997 World Cup, she had only played a handful of games, mostly for the Thane's Women's Cricket Club, where she scored a 37 against Ireland, 27 against the England under-20s, and a 6 of 30 again against the England under-20s. What's fascinating about this is the fact that against Ireland, where she scored 37 of 31, she had the highest strike rate in the match by a mile. She was the only one to have a strike rate of more than 100, and in those days, it was a rarity in itself. She also played one list day game, which was against Bihar, scoring 38 while opening the batting, which also makes sense because even on her debut, she was made to open the batting for the Indian team because all of these matches that she did play, she mostly batted on top of the order. So that she plays these handful of games, gets selected as the reserve wicketkeeper batter for the 97 World Cup, and between 97 and 1999 when she did make a debut, she played 6 list day games. Again, when you look at these scores, something you will notice is that across these 6 games, she scored 150. Sure, she did score that 1/2 century, but apart from that, she didn't really have big scores to show. Yet on June 26th of 1999, she was selected in that squad against Ireland in England. But this was also because a lot of prominent names, especially Anju Jain, who was an established wicketkeeper for the Indian team back then, were rested. They were rested against Ireland because a couple of weeks down the line, they were going to face the mighty Englands. And what a dream debut, right? We've already gone over the fact that on her debut, she scored 100. She has spoken on record about how the only reason Mithali and her even got a chance is because a lot of players, a lot of prominent seniors were rested and a lot of other players weren't really scoring a lot of runs. So they weren't looking at Mithali and Reshma Gandhi as the next big thing. Of course, you were hoping as youngsters to score big and make your name in the squad, but they were looking at these 2 girls as just someone to give a chance because it's anyways against Ireland and you don't have a lot of seniors in the side anyways. And this is where things start turning around for Reshma Gandhi, the player. Right, couple of weeks down the line after the Ireland game, you have the series against England, a three-match ODI series. A 1999 Cricket Info article suggests that Reshma Gandhi was supposed to be opening for the Indian team from game one. She was supposed to be the starting opener, which is quite surprising because you had Anju Jain walk into the squad. She was back into the squad. So she was going to open, which would then mean Anju Jain and Reshma Gandhi were supposed to be the opening pair for the three-match ODI series. However, in the first two games, Reshma Gandhi didn't even make it into the 11. You had Mithali Raj being picked over Reshma Gandhi, and you had Mithali Raj and Anju Jain opening the batting in the first two games. Unfortunately for Mithali Raj, in the first two games, she didn't really make a mark, because of which in the third game she was dropped. Now, when you take a step back and think about what's going on, so right, Mithali Raj and Anju Jain is opening the batting in the first two games. In the third game, you have Mithali Raj getting dropped, which would then mean if Reshma Gandhi is being picked, she would automatically open with Anju Jain. But that's not what happened, because Reshma Gandhi was picked in the playing 11. And remember, on her debut, she opened and she scored 100. I say this because when she was picked in the third ODI, she batted at number 7, scoring 18 of 28. India managed to score 220 for 5 by the end of 50 overs, and England chased it with 3 wickets remaining. And then she was dropped. And then she never played for the Indian team. This was the last ever time Reshma Gandhi wore the blues for the Indian team and stepped onto the field. What even happened? Right, so we've come to 2000. There's a World Cup by the end of the year. Now, September of 2000, BCCI lists out 20 names that could possibly make it to the World Cup squad. These are 20 probable names. And there was one name omitted from this squad, and that was Reshma Gandhi. And a lot of people were surprised by the fact that Reshma Gandhi didn't even make it to the probables list. Why would you not include her? The 2 chances that she got for the Indian team, she performed. She scored 100, and she stayed not out in the second innings, batting at number 7, something she really hadn't done leading up to playing for the country. So why would you drop her? And even though she was dropped, a lot of people hoped that Reshma Gandhi would bounce back and make it back into the squad after the World Cup. But what's even more interesting is the fact that 26 years later, we do have an answer for why she was dropped and why she never made it back into the Indian squad. A bit unfair, but we do have an answer. Now remember, this is the year 2000 where the World Cup was going to happen end of the year. Very early on, in around March of 2000, she played a first-class game. It was the Senior National Women's Cricket Championship, where in the first game that she did play, which was also the semi-final, she didn't get to bat. But in the second game, she batted number 4 and scored only 2. But right, this is the first-class game. Let's look at how she did in the list A format. Something you should know that the last time she played a list A game or the ODI format was 11 July 1999, and almost a year and a half later, in March of 2000, is when she next plays a 50-over game. She played 6 games, and these are the scores in front of you. Out of these 6 games, in 2 games she didn't even bat because they didn't trust her opening the batting anymore, and she was batting lower down the order. In the first game she batted number 5, and the next couple of games she did open the batting, and then she was pushed down the order once again. And then game number 6, she scored 16 of 37 at number 6. Some might say not good enough, but she was still part of the 37 players national probables who could possibly make it to the World Cup. There was a Cricket Info tournament between India A, India B and India C where Reshma Gandhi was selected, which means she was still in the radar for the selectors. She got 3 games that didn't do justice for her, nor did she do justice to the game. In the first game, she scored 13 of 31. Might just be a bad patch. In the second game, you knew the pressure was getting to her because she scored 35 of 108. 35 of 108 even in early 2000s is terribly slow. And then in the third game, she scored 3 of 15. And that's what it was. I know it almost seemed like a build-up to a big end, but unfortunately, when it comes to cricketing stories, not all of it is fairy tale or not all of it is movie-like. Unfortunately, even though she did get those 2 games for the Indian team and did score, after that, every domestic game that she did play, she didn't really perform. She didn't have a single half century. In fact, after this Cricket Info tournament and when the Indian squad was announced, that was the last time she even played an official list A or a first class game, unfortunately, at least on record. After that, she never played a game on record, and after that, she couldn't ever be considered because she never played any list A or first class games. Unfortunately, when you look at her stats now, she's played 2 games for the Indian team with 100 and nothing after that. But she also unfortunately didn't perform in the chances given to her in the domestic circuit. But this wasn't the end. As much as she couldn't go on to do a lot of things as a player, in 2010, she was part of the BCCI Women's Selection Committee, which is a very, very big deal to be even recognized as that. She was the selector representing the North Zone. And even in 2017, she was part of the selection committee for the Delhi state team, which means for a very long time she was always in and around the game. But this is a story we wanted to narrate because it's such a fascinating story when you just look at it. The numbers, the stats might be underwhelming, but it's the fact that you have played 2 games for the Indian team. You don't even have an average because you stayed not out in both the innings. But unfortunately, the selectors never looked at you. Not because you disappeared, but unfortunately because she just wasn't able to perform. It's quite contrary because the other debutant that she scored 100 with in the same game in 1999 became one of the best batters in the world, if not just the Indian team. And that's what's poetic. It's quite sad but also poetic about this story and this player. All that being said, a player's story isn't just about numbers but the journey in itself. The fact that she even played for the Indian team is a very, very big deal. And that's exactly what we wanted to put out there, and hopefully it's a story that you're in awe of. If you've enjoyed this video, like, share and subscribe, all that good stuff. All of our links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.